Are the Chicago Bulls really targeting Egor Demin with the number 12 overall pick? Does that make sense for where the Bulls roster currently is? And what does it mean for the future of current shooting guard Coby White? We're going to talk about it all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing Egor Demin. We're going to be talking about Josh Giddey and the focus on re-signing him and the future of Coby White. But let's go ahead and jump into it. Egor Demin. So Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times reported about midday yesterday that Egor Demin is who the Bulls are zeroing in on at number 12 in the 2025 NBA draft, which naturally brought about a lot of questions on what that means for the Bulls' current backcourt. Now, we got a couple of rumors about the backcourt, one in which also pertains to Josh Giddey, which we're going to get into here in a second. But what does that mean for the Bulls' backcourt, right? And that's the question that's there. Me and Pat have already discussed Egor Demin and his draft profile and what he brings in. Make no mistake about it. Like, Egor is a talent in this draft. He is a player that deserves to be drafted in the top 10, definitely top 12. Like, he's that level of prospect in this draft. I want to be clear there, right? I would not be surprised at all if Egor Demin goes in the top 10. But the question is like, how does that fit for the Bulls? A lot of what Egor is good at kind of overlaps with where Josh Giddey is strong at. He's a playmaker. He is great at operating the offense and running that offense. He has an amazing feel for the game when it comes down to it, but he is the guy that can run your offense, period. Every type of the pass that reading the defense, knowing how to get players involved, Egor Demin brings all of that. Now, I do think he has a higher defensive upside than Josh Giddey. He's already shown an ability to be a better off-ball defender. And on-ball, he gives some effort. There's times where he gets beat at times, but I look at that as like an age and an experience thing. He's only 19 years old. He's 6'8", almost 6'9", with the 6'10" wingspan. So he does have the makeup of a player that seems like he's going to be able to turn into maybe a decent defender, right? He already gets into the passing lanes. He causes turnovers. He gets you out in transition. He's a really good rebounder as well at almost 7 rebounds per game as a guard, right? And so you see where some of those things overlap at. One of the biggest questions for Egor and how productive he's going to be at the NBA level is going to come down to how much of a shooter can he turn into, right? He's shown some signs of being a decent shooter, right? He shot the ball 18% from 3. Now, a lot of people are going to go to quote, well, he started off the season shooting better from 3. Yeah, but we've seen it in the NBA too, where you can start off maybe hot in some things and it doesn't work out for you. That doesn't mean that's who you are, right? But he does have really good shooting mechanics. I think there is something that in his shot mechanics that you can look at and say, this dude has the ability to turn into a decent shooter at the next level, right? But the overall question is going to be, what does this mean for the Bulls? What does this mean for the fit that the Chicago Bulls have? And I know a lot of people have heard this rumor and they've taken that as, oh my God, we're trading Coby. We got to trade Coby now if this is what we're going to do. And I don't know if that's necessarily what the Bulls are going to do right away, right? Look at what the Golden State Warriors did when they drafted Steph. Monte Ellis was still on that team for a little while, right? Like, now, I do think maybe the future of Coby White, it could be something that's in question as soon as this draft. We'll get into that on the last segment for today. But Egor as a prospect is a good prospect. The question is, what does this mean on the team, right? Josh Giddey, you already have him here. There's some overlapping skill sets there. What does that mean? And I get it for like having multiple really good passers and facilitators on your team and what that can turn into as far as getting everybody else involved. But, it's just difficult when you have players that skill sets so overlap. We've seen it before, like even with DeMar and Vooch, right? I'm a little bit worried if you bring in Egor Demin, are you creating something similar there just at the guard position? Like DeMar and Vooch like to start their offense at the same spot. They didn't finish at the same spot, but they like to generate and start their offense from the same spot, which naturally means you can't have 2 players starting in the exact same spot. You got to clear that space for somebody, which then pushed Vooch to be more of an outside shooter than what he's comfortably being, and we saw the efficiency drop off from Vooch. he's turned back into a decent player, right? Like the numbers that he put up last year, especially at the beginning of the season, you got to see more of Nikola Vucevic in his spots more naturally, and we got to see a better season from Vuce. So I'm just worried that are you kind of recreating that now at the guard position, even though Egor is a guard. He's not necessarily a point guard. He's a guard. So you can get away with kind of saying that they don't play the exact same position, but they still have very similar play styles, right? And so it would put some interesting thing on that. But the other flip side of that is that what if you're trying to recreate what you had with Trey Jones being here, meaning that Trey came off the bench. He started sometimes too, but like when you had Trey, Coby, and Josh, they actually had some pretty good chemistry out there together, right? So maybe you're trying to recreate something like that with younger and a longer term runway on that. And I know some people are going to say, well, why don't we just bring back Trey Jones? Money. I mean, just to be 100% frank, it's money. I mean, I think overall that's the thing there. The Bulls also are bringing in Mark Sears from Alabama, who's a point guard at 6'1", for a workout. I think that's another player that projects to be a similar skill set to Trey Jones. So maybe the Bulls really looked at that that sample size that they've had there, and they're saying we want to be able to recreate that because that's when we were playing some of our best basketball. And I can't ignore the data on that. I can't. But is spending a 12th overall pick in a draft where your position of need is there, I just don't know if that's the right allocation of assets. Now, flip side of that too is that a lot of the players that we've been talking about as big options here for the Chicago Bulls are probably going to go much later in the first round and even some in the second round. When, like, if you look at some of the updated mocks as of like yesterday, like guys like Asa Newell are going in the 20s. And with you having, the Portland pick, your own second round pick, you can even include a future protected first round pick and a version of those to get back into the first round of this draft and get your center. Then maybe that's why you're taking the player that you have the highest upside on, if that's who you view as that. And that's really what this comes down to, right? It comes down to upside versus position of need. And that goes back to, like, I mean, I can't knock a team for taking a player that they see as being the best player on the board, regardless of position, for a team that's as far away as the Bulls are. I want the Bulls to draft a center. The Bulls do need to draft a center, but, the Bulls need talent more than anything. We are not a team that has a star level player yet. Josh Giddey's not a star yet. Coby's not a star yet. Modest Buzelis is not a star yet. So if they're going after a player that they view as having that star upside, I can't really knock it. I have my questions on it for sure. I can't knock it per se though. So I think we'll see what the Bulls end up doing. But Egor Demin is, that report came out from Joe Cowley yesterday, and I already knew that there are going to be a lot of reactions to it, as rightfully so, because it is unexpected, right? But I do think that it doesn't mean that the Bulls are not going to address the center in a different way. Second round pick, like I said, you can get back into the first round. There's some really decent center prospects in the second round of this draft, like Rocco Zakarsky. You still have Maxime Reynaud that are still prospects in the second round of this draft. Johnny Broome. I don't think he's a starting level prospect, but he's another big prospect in this draft. So there's other bigs that the Bulls could target. It just is going to be one of those things where I know a lot of Bulls fans, rightfully so, are going to say, is this AK trying to be the smartest man in the room and dropping the ball again, right? And that's the question that you have to have here. And you got to be very, very intentional about what you do here if that's the route you want to go. But as I've said multiple times, best player available. Witten says Egor could be a backup plan for the Bulls just in case AK Mark Eversley signed Josh Giddey for whatever reason. Josh Giddey doesn't work out. Yeah, you don't at number 12, you don't take a backup plan though, because the high, you have the right to match Josh Giddey. The higher chance than not is Josh Giddey's coming back. I don't think you use number 12 for a backup plan because, all right, Josh Giddey stays. Now you got your backup plan that's still on your roster. You can't trade them. You can't turn around right away and trade a draft pick right after you draft them after the draft. So it's that part of it, right? Like, so I get the mindset on it. I just don't know if that is is the best allocation of assets. But like I said, if you get a big in the second round of this draft that does have upside, because there are some bigs that have some really good upside in the second round of this draft, maybe you just roll with it that way. Maybe, right? So that's me trying to add some logic to it. But we're going to keep talking about what this means, because we also got some news on Josh Giddey over the course of the weekend. We're going to talk about that. But first, we got to get to the message from Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on my merch purchases, and now I budget even smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. If you're managing money with a partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans, thank you everydayers for tuning in to Locked On Bulls and making us your first listen every single day. With that said, let's get into it for this. Josh Giddey. So it also came out over the weekend. This one came from Jake L. Fisher, that the Bulls are focused on re-signing Josh Giddey by any means necessary. Shout out if you get that reference. And so that, of course, raised some questions. Of course, you have the Bulls fans that want to see the Bulls, make him go out and sign an offer sheet somewhere else, right? But if the Bulls know that they want to bring back Josh Giddey, they know their price, if they can agree to it, cool, you get your price done, right? It seems like the Bulls are not shied away by the $30 million contract, and that is what it is. Maybe that plays into part of the Egor Demin rumors that we heard. And, this is a thing that's going to be an ongoing conversation for the Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bulls fandom. No matter what Josh Giddey signs for, there's going to be conversation about it for forevermore. And I look at it and I say, listen, I was one that, I think me and Pat were the ones that told you guys, don't be surprised if the Bulls just lock in Josh Giddey for his $11 million and keep it pushing. I mean, his $30 million and keep it pushing. And Bulls fans are going to complain. They're going to whine about it. They're going to do all their, oh my God, we should have actually done this. And that is what it is. But if the Bulls have picked their direction and their path, and if that includes drafting a guard and moving on from Coby White, that actually makes more sense. Why bicker and just sign your guy? The problem in that article from Jake L. Fisher, though, that he wrote was that the Bulls could be making Josh Giddey the face of their franchise. We're a little too soon to be crowning anybody the face of the franchise. It's not against Josh Giddey thing. That's against nobody on this team has proven that they're the face of the franchise yet. They have not proven that they can play at that level consistently enough. If you're the face of a franchise of a sub playoff team, what are you really? Nothing. So that little part of that article kind of made me suck my teeth a little bit at it, like an old man that I am. But I think overall, I think the writing has been on the wall for this. And I think people have not wanted to admit it, or not wanted to, they want to have their takes, and that's fine. But when you traded for Josh Giddey and you basically put it at, we are not going to re-sign him until, we're not going to give him a above contract extension, before the season starts. And then he had the season that he did and finished it was almost the worst case scenario for the Bulls. He finished the season so strong that it's like, all right, you can only play hardball so much with it. So, if they re-sign Josh Giddey at the $30 million, keep in mind the $30 million is the average annual value. It's going to start off a little bit less than that. But you know what? It is what it is when it comes down to it. And that's just what I got to say with that. That's all I got to say. If they re-sign Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey, who flew back to stateside over the weekend, he's back in Los Angeles now. The NBA draft is basically exactly 30 days away. The free agency starts 5 days after that. He actually has a a basketball camp in Australia at the beginning of July. So I think that you're going to see a very quick resolution to this. I would not be surprised if Giddey and his agents are meeting now to kind of get like, okay, Giddey, what do we want, right? What's everything that we want? How far are we willing to come down off the exact things that we want? And then when they go to the table with the Bulls, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets done in the first meeting. I really wouldn't be surprised if that gets done. It is what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if free agency opens June 30th. I think the negotiating with your own free agents start the day before that. Wouldn't be surprised if on June 31st, is there 31 days in June? No. So on July 1st, you get a deal announced between Josh Giddey, the Chicago Bulls. He flies back over to Australia. He gets ready for his basketball camp. Wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the outcome in this at all. And I think that's probably the most likely outcome. For those that want to see some long, drawn-out conversation or negotiating battle, I really don't think you're going to get that. I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward contract negotiation, and the Bulls are going to get this done fairly quickly. Josh Giddey's going to sign his contract. They're going to do their little photo op with him being here stateside at the Advocate Center. They're going to take a little picture of him officially signing his contract. He's going to go off onto a plane, get on the plane, take that 15-hour flight, and be back in Australia, be back here a couple of weeks after that. That's the most likely scenario in all of this. And I get it. I understand it. I feel for people that want to see, oh, no, Josh Giddey needs to meet with the Bulls. Then he needs to go meet with the Nets. Then the Nets need to make an offer. They then need to take that offer and go back to the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls need it. That's probably not going to happen here, y'all. It's probably not going to happen here. This is what it is. And, people who assume, like, we don't even know if the Nets are even going to sit down with Josh Giddey and give him an offer. The Nets could be like, hey, listen, I'm not going to get in those games between you and the Chicago Bulls. We don't want our money tied up, because keep in mind, when you sign a player to an offer sheet, that ties up your money. You can't go after other free agents, because if the player signs that offer sheet, your money's gone. So I really think that the Bulls fans that are hoping that, oh my God, you got to make him go out and meet with the Nets, they're assuming a lot. A, that's assuming that Josh Giddey and his agency even have interest in signing with the Nets, because the Bulls can, Josh Giddey and his agents can literally look at the Bulls and say, no, what are you doing here? Either give us our offer, or we're going to take the qualifying offer and we're going to keep it pushing. Or you can rescind the offer and we can be an unrestricted free agent. You can't make a player go out, and you can't make another team meet with it either. Even if they did say, all right, Giddey, we want to know what the Nets would give you. And Josh Giddey goes and his agent calls the Nets, and the Nets are like, you know what? We're actually planning on putting that money into Jonathan Kuminga, so we don't have any interest in meeting with Josh Giddey. We're going to draft a point guard and sign a wing, and we're good. All right. Like, people assume a lot. This ain't fantasy basketball. This is not 2K. Like, it isn't that. So I think these contract extensions are going to go very, very, very pretty straightforward. I think you're going to get Josh Giddey re-signed here. Like I said, by July 1st, Josh Giddey's going to be re-signed. He's going to have his photo op. He's going to be back in Australia by the 3rd. That's probably what's going to happen here. And he'll be back at the end of the month to get ready for training camp, all that type of stuff. That's probably what's going to happen. So it is what it is. And here's the thing. If that's the direction that the Bulls have chosen, I'd rather see them, rather than play coy games for fantasy bookers to feel like the Bulls did something different, I'd rather them get their business done and shift their focus to, all right, we got a $20 million trade exception. We got $19 million underneath the luxury tax. We got a mid-level exception. We got to move Vooch, right? I'd rather you get the Josh Giddey contract done, signed, over with, signed, sealed, delivered, and then move on to trying to find destinations for Vooch. I'd much rather you do that than nickel and dime your own free agent. Get it done, and then let's go out and focus on a Day'Ron Sharpe. Let's go out and try to get a Miles Turner. Let's try to get a Naz Reid. Let's get the business we need to get done. Let's focus on getting that done, and then move the hell on. All these games that everybody wants, and I always say, sports are soap operas for men, and I understand it. I listen. I'm here. I understand it. I'm right there with y'all, brethren. I feel you. But at some point, the business is just the business. And you just got to sometimes take care of business and move the hell on and focus on other things. And that's what I would rather see the Chicago Bulls do in this offseason. If you know you want to re-sign Giddey, and you know your dollar amount, you know you're willing to pay the dollar amount, having to go, I'm not saying just walk and be like, hey, what do you want? All right, let's give you that. Have a negotiation, but walk away from that negotiation with a vision, and then now let's pivot, and then now let's go see what we're going to do with the rest of our team. Because we got some things that we got actual flexibility, y'all. I don't know if y'all realize that or not. The Bulls, for once, have financial flexibility to go out there and actually try to outbid a team for a free agent, especially if we're able to move Vooch and not take all that money back. Let's go out there and focus on that rather than nickel and diamond Josh Giddey for the sake of Bulls fandom to feel like the Bulls did something. Personal opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. We're going to go ahead and get into the last topic, the future of Coby White and what all this talk around Egor and Josh could mean for Coby White right after this. All right, Bulls fans, thank you guys for tuning in, staying locked in with us over here on Locked On Bulls. Everydayers, we appreciate y'all so much. Pat is on podcast PTO. I think he was drinking too much last night. He missed the recording today. It is what it is. Luckily, I'm one of the best solo Bulls content creators you'll ever find on the market, so I'm here. I never leave y'all guys without a dope pod to step to. So with that said, what does this all mean possibly for the future of Coby White? That is a conversation here, and here's what I'll say. I have no idea. Listen, I would love to be able to come here and give y'all some long, insightful answer on that. I don't. It can go one of three ways. The Bulls can keep Coby White and say, we're going to re-sign Coby White, or let whatever plays out in free agency play out, and that is what it's going to be. They could be proactive and say, hey, listen, if we don't feel confident we're going to be able to re-sign Coby, we're moving him. Orlando, can we get that number 16 pick? Can we get that up off you? What are you willing to do for that? Right? That's what you can do there. If they do that, I'm cool with that too. If they know they're not going to be able to re-sign him. What's up? Come here. Come here. Parenting, y'all, always comes first. Good morning, son. Give me my hug. Hug first. I love you, big dude. There you go. Oh, hey. Is that leaving? Oh, okay. All right. Love you. Where was that? So, or you can try to move Coby. You can basically say, especially before the draft, if you have any inkling that Coby White is not going to re-sign with you, or you just know you're not willing to pay him, boom, lock him in. Like, move him. Just find what you can get done. Or the Bulls could just let the chips fall where they may. Now, I do think that it would be a drastic underusage of assets if you let Coby White walk away for nothing next year in free agency. Now, yeah, you always have a chance of a sign and trade, but that's not really fully in your control. But I think that, if you have any doubts that Coby's going to want to stay here, you owe it. Business is business. Like we said earlier, the business is the business. You, at that point, would have to look to move Coby White. And I just think that that's just what you have to do at that point in time. I want to see Coby stay here. I love Coby White. I think that when you draft players that perform, and Coby White's dealt with what he's dealt with coaching changes. Like, you look through, Coby White's been through 3 coaches. Hoiberg, because Hoiberg was still the coach. Jim Boylan, right? And Billy Donovan. He's been through 3 head coaches, tons of different roles, right? He was coming off the bench his rookie year. He was then the starting point guard. His job was to be the offense with Zach LaVine. He then moved to the bench. His job wasn't even to get shots off the bench because they didn't even run him as like a scoring off the bench. They just basically had him out there doing stuff. Then you went from the starting point guard, then to the starting shooting guard. They want you to play off ball, right? There was so much with that. So I would love to see Coby White stay here for all intents and purposes. But, I realize that this is a business. And if the Bulls look at it as a chance to get a guard that fits better with Josh Giddey, I have my doubts if Egor is that guy. Do what you got to do. That's all I can say is do what you got to do. Coby White's future, though, where it seemed at the end of last season, not this past season, but the end of the 2023-24 season, it seemed like Coby's future here was here in Chicago between the acquisition of Josh Giddey, between maybe a change of direction in drafting. That future is now a little bit in doubt. But I think it comes down to the money. And I really do think it's business. And you got Io DeSumo here who, listen, is Io the scorer that Coby is? No. But if you go and look at the minutes, Io DeSumo is actually a better fit with Josh Giddey than Coby White has been because of the defense, because it's not needing to be ball dominant. He is a better off-ball player, those type of things. And maybe the Bulls are looking at it and saying, hey, we don't know if we want to invest, because if you re-sign Coby and re-sign Giddey, you can make it fit, right? The Bulls have the salary cap to do so. I want to be clear there. It's not about not having the salary to do so. They have the salary. They have the cap space to do so. But maybe they don't want to lock themselves into a backcourt that could be upwards of $70 million that you could be paying for that backcourt. Now, that's cheaper than some. You look at some of the backcourts that are $100 million, or some of the 1-2 punches that are $100 million. But maybe the Bulls just aren't ready to invest in that with how unsure they are about the state of this team. And so that's what it goes down to, man. So we'll see what the future holds. Overall, I think that it's a lot more up in the air, and I do think that this is shaping up to maybe be more of an active free agency for the Chicago Bulls than initially thought that I gave them credit for. I've been saying for months, hey, this is probably going to be a straightforward offseason for the Bulls. They're going to re-sign Josh Giddey, draft their center in the draft, and keep it pushing. Maybe it's different things going, man. So we shall see. We shall see. Again, my hope is Coby stays here, but the business is it could be different. The Bulls also could be throwing out smoke screens. This whole Egor Demin thing could be a smoke screen that the Bulls are just throwing out there to throw other teams off their scent of who they really do want to target in this draft. That is, and that would be a front office actually operating like a smart front office. And so maybe that's the thing that they're doing here as well. But we shall see. We shall see. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Fubo TV, and more. If you guys have any questions, man, make sure you guys just reach out to me on social media at CEO Haize. We're also at Locked On Bulls collectively. Locked On Bulls is free and available. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully Pat doesn't oversleep with his hangover on tomorrow's episode. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See Red. Peace, y'all.